Hello, I'm Ruben and welcome to this week's Samplecast. I know I say this every week, but it's another really big show this week. This is getting so predictable, isn't it? But it really is the case. We've got a fantastic composer demo and interview from Graham Plowman. We've also got tips and tricks, reviews, bargains, and we're going to start off with this week's roundup. So last week I kicked off the show with news of Samplephonics Noise, which was a plugin where you can choose your samples and download them from the cloud. And this week there's a similar upcoming launch from Loopmasters. Now this is Loopcloud, which is a free service and runs as a plugin within your DAW. And this allows you to manage samples, MIDI files and presets across all of your computers. You can also search for samples from Loopmasters, you can audition them within the plugin and download only the ones that you need rather than the entire sample pack. So if you already have Loopmasters packs, you'll be in luck, as you'll find that these samples are already installed within the Loopcloud, and you can then personalize your library and go through and edit those. Loopcloud isn't available just yet. They're taking beta subscribers at the moment, but it will be available within the first quarter of 2017, and a little bird tells me that will be very soon. So look out for it on the Loopmasters website. This is a crazy one. It's KVLT drums from It Might Get Loud Productions. This is a drum library designed for metal and punk music, and it evokes a kind of 1990s sound. They've recorded these drums in a sauna in Finland. I'm sure they had a lot of fun doing that. And there's multiple velocity layers here with several different drums recorded. It's 310 megabytes in size and it runs in their own bespoke plugin. To be honest, it's a little bit too punk sounding for me, but if you like what you hear, check it out at the It Might Get Loud website. There's quite a lot of small boutique libraries out this week, so I'm going to cover some of these. The first is String Theory by Sonic Zest. They've sampled a palm muted Telecaster guitar here and also a bass guitar, and not only have you got the palm mute sounds, but these samples have been mutated into sound design patches too. This runs in the full version of Contact. It's a tiny little library, it's 105 megabytes in size, and you can check it out at the Sonic Zest website. I'm a big fan of anything that Pendle at Soundust puts out, and he has produced some fantastic Contact libraries over the years, but this one's a little bit different. It's Untopia. Now this runs in Omnisphere 2 and it's a 200 patch sound design library. It includes 80 different sound sources, and the samples for these have been curated from Pendle's own selection of samples. So you've got dark industrial sounds here with a kind of gritty feel. There's a real mixture of different styles. It's best to have a look at his YouTube video. That'll give you a good idea of the sounds on offer. Have a look at it. It's on the Soundust website right now. Another little dinky library, it's Soundiron's Mercury Micro. I'm loving their compact versions of the Soundiron libraries they're releasing at the moment. They're really inexpensive, and if you can't be bothered to go for the whole shebang, which sometimes is hundreds of euros, then these little mini versions give you a good taste of what's on offer. This one is a slimmed down version of their 25 boy choir ensemble, and they've included just a couple of vowel sounds, and you've got sustained versions of these and staccatos too. There's also some added bonus vocal effects. It's 303 megabytes and runs in the full version of Contact. This week's big review comes courtesy of Time and Space. Thank you very much for supplying me with a copy of Shadowlands. This is cinematic scene setters from 0G. Here you've got 50 construction kits, and the whole library is 16 gigabytes in size. So that's 1,480 audio files. You've got those in both the Apple Loops format and also acidized WAV format too. There's 659 instruments for the full version of Contact. You've also got Halion instruments. There's also instruments for Logic's EXS24 and for Reason as well. So the sounds here are cinematic soundscapes. They're perfect for suspense scoring. There's effects in there too. There's vocal atmospheres, rhythmic loops, cinematic loops, and hundreds of one-shot drum hits. It's quite a comprehensive sounding library. The best thing about this library is that it's pretty big and the price isn't too much for the content that you get on offer. It's also discounted by 20% until mid-February, which makes it just over £50. The soundscape sounds aren't too bad and they're extremely long. Each one is about 3 minutes long, so you get your money's worth there. They're all presented in a construction kit format, so you get the entire sample and you get all the elements of those as well, so that you can use them as the basis for entire cues. It's also nice to see that the samples have been tagged with the BPM in their file names, and also the key of the sample is written there as well. The folder of cinematic groove, drums and rhythm loops I think would be especially useful. However, having said that, there's a lot of problems with this library. First off, don't get too excited about the huge number of contact instruments that I mentioned at the top of the review. There's over 600, but these are just the individual construction kit samples mapped across the keyboard. They don't even tempo sync or loop. So this is a serious problem because the instruments specifically called rhythm loops, for example, don't loop in Kontakt. You'd have to go into the Kontakt edit menu and turn the loop function on for yourself. There's also a bit of a problem with the start points of the full samples. There's a little gap there. It's not going to be huge if you're just dragging and dropping the samples into your DAW, but if you're trying to use them in Kontakt, they don't start immediately. You'll find that the one-shot drum hits are all very similar sounding, and they're absolutely drenched in reverb. Now, I can appreciate that this is kind of cinematic, epic scoring, that's the vibe of this library, but the drum hits sound so similar because they've got so much reverb on that I really can't tell the difference between the majority of them. I also found that the naming of the samples could be more descriptive. It's nice to have the key and BPM mentioned, as I said before, but for example the effects samples, they're just called effects 1, 2, 3, all the way up to the hundreds, with no indication of if they're risers, downers, impacts or anything like that. This could have been done a lot better. So what did I think overall? Well, I always try and think when I put these reviews together whether the products are value for money and whether they're going to be useful for me. Now, I know there's always going to be some composers who will find certain elements of a library useful, but for me there's far few reasons to pick it up. The core atmospheres and elements of the 50 kits sound alright, but if you've been composing for a little while and your hard drive is already stuffed with these kinds of soundscapes, well, I know mine is, so there's not really any need to pick up Shadowlands. The limitations of the Kontakt instruments will only make them useful for quickly auditioning the sounds, so the only real value of Shadowlands is in the WAV files themselves. Now, of course, some people are going to find the long evolving soundscapes and loops really handy for creating quick and easy underscoring, but for me, I've already got these types of sounds and there's already libraries which are a lot more user friendly. I really hate saying this, but I don't recommend that you pick up this library unless you're really desperate for some more soundscapes or it's reduced in price in a future sale. There's a couple of notable bargains this week. The first is by Best Service and it's Eduardo Torrelante's Forest Kingdom. There's a huge collection of forest and nature instruments here. It's 7 GB in size, runs in the Best Service Engine 2, which is a free player you can pick up from them. And the instruments are flutes, harps, percussion, soundscapes, creature sounds and vocals. This is especially ideal for video game scoring where you might want a kind of mystical forest sort of atmosphere. It's currently 50% off at €92.99, and you can also upgrade it for an additional €49 to Forest Kingdom 2. That's also a half price upgrade offer. Check the link below for the full information from VST Buzz. A really quick mention for the February offer from VSL. This is on Vienna Instruments Pro, and it's going to be a really useful offer if you're already running Vienna Instruments software and you want to upgrade. The upgrade price is now 25% to get you up to that Pro version, so you're looking at €108. Plus you can also get free convolution reverb packs depending on how much you spend in one transaction at VSL. Have a look at the Vienna website for full details. This week I put out a call on Facebook for talented composers to let me know about their recent work, and oh my god, I was inundated with offers. Now, I had so many great compositions and styles to choose from that I was really overwhelmed. So thank you for sending those over. If you submitted something to the show, then I've kept it on file and I may well be calling on you in a future show to chat about your work. You can hear this week's track and interview in full on the podcast, and it's from composer Graham Plowman. It's a powerful cue for orchestra and choir, so check out the podcast for the full track and interview. He chats about his background, his catalogue of works, and how he put the track together. Have a look at his website at www.grahamplowman.com, where you can hear more of Graham's music. So following on from the review of 0G Shadowlands, where I complained that the contact patches had no tempo syncing function, here's a quick tutorial on how to set up Time Machine Pro in Kontakt to solve exactly that problem. So we're going to do this a really quick and easy way in Kontakt, and I've got loaded up a patch from 0G Shadowlands, which has a nice loop and it plays across the keyboard. But the problem is that it's not sticking to our host DAW tempo, which is 67 or so. The loop is recorded at 88 BPM. We can see that by the file name of the loop. So we'll just go into the edit menu and we'll look in the mapping editor, double click the mapping, and we've got the loop there. We can see it playing through. So to make that sync up, all we need to do is turn on the Sync and Slice Time Machine Pro button, which is just here on the Sync Slice menu in the interface, and then we'll switch on the grid, and sometimes you'll need to put in the original BPM of the sample. It's already detected it here, it's 88 BPM, and now that should lock into our host DAW tempo when we turn on the grid. That's just a really quick and easy way to lock in samples to your host DAW tempo using Kontakt's Time Machine Pro. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's Samplecast. It's a bit of a mixed bag this week, but I hope you've enjoyed it. For more information on the show, you can head over to the Samplecast website, you can email us, you can catch us on Twitter, all of the good stuff, it's right there on the screen. And I will see you again next week. Bye bye now.